Good morning, this is Dominic with the Back Vlog. I just realized that this shirt that I'm wearing, I happen to be wearing in a ton of my other videos. I have a lot more t-shirts than this, it's just that I happen to be wearing this one on a day that I'm filming. I also just woke up, so my voice is very deep right now, like smooth molasses. It's smooth molasses, Robin. Smooth molasses. I just watched the Jim Carrey film Man on the Moon, the Andy Kaufman biopic. I am aware of who Andy Kaufman is. He went on to inspire some of my favorite comedians, people who have like helped shape my work in the past and my work now, which I'm not going to really talk about on here. But I'll link my channel and everything in the channel description and whatnot. If you know what I'm talking about, you know. But people like Tim Heidecker or Nathan Fielder, like the anti-comics who blend the line between reality and fiction, because they're so deep in their character and the things that they do with real people, you can't really tell if they're in on the joke or not. Andy Kaufman was really the first person to ever live so deep in irony. I think Jim Carrey does an incredible job here. Like I said, because I haven't really seen any of Andy Kaufman's specials or any of his TV performances, I can't really say anything to the accuracy of the person. I was going to say of the character, but he's not a character, he was a real person. But I'm sure he did an amazing job. Jim Carrey always does an amazing job. I guess this video is probably going to be more about Andy Kaufman than the film about Andy Kaufman. Because the way, and I guess it's probably the way that it's directed. It's directed by, I believe his name is pronounced Milos Forman. The guy who did One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and Amadeus, the Mozart movie. Maybe it's just the way that he directed the film, but he does, either he, or it's just the way that, an Andy Kaufman biopic story would be told. But when it's getting into the bits where he's getting super either aggressive or apathetic, you can't really tell who likes him and who doesn't. And as a person who is not familiar with the beats of his life, I think it is really interesting. Because I'm watching this film the same way that I would watch a Nathan Fielder bit, where I'm yes, it's funny, but it's also really just interesting, because you're trying to wrap your head around what is happening and who knows what's happening, to the point where it's you're questioning if even the comic is even planning this bit to begin with, if he's planning the reaction that he's getting, or if it's all improvising. I had read that the film does embellish a little bit of the stuff in Andy Kaufman's life, changing around things for dramatic effect or over-exaggerating some of the things that happened, which Jim Carrey as Andy Kaufman actually gives a disclaimer regarding in the beginning of the film, when he says that the beginning of the film is the end of the film. I thought that was rather humorous. But, there was some stuff that, I wasn't sure had actually happened to him in real life. There's, I guess the two things that stand out are the Carnegie Hall performance, where, at the end of it, he would have busloads of people brought to a separate location to just, eat milk and cookies, and it's astonishing that he actually did that, and that that entire crowd of people were okay with just doing that. You know, it really makes you wonder, like, where Andy Kaufman got his money, you know. I'm sure he had a lot of money from, you know, Taxi and everything. You know, his producers always, like he was saying, played by Danny DeVito, who actually knew Andy Kaufman in real life. I think Danny DeVito was on Taxi, if I remember reading that. You know, he was like, where are you going to get the money for this? And Andy Kaufman was like, oh, Tony Clifton will pay for it. You know, Andy Kaufman is Tony Clifton. I guess Andy Kaufman was just secretly rich, you know, and I guess, like, that's another reason why, you know, people were so confused about what was reality and what wasn't, because you had people in his bits that he was using who were, like, pissed off at him. And some of these people actually were pissed off at him, but other people were, like, paid actors, paid by Andy Kaufman, including the heavyweight wrestler. I don't remember his name. I think it was, like, was it Jerry Fowler or something? I don't remember. David Letterman, his David Letterman performance, I'm pretty sure, like, that whole thing. I mean, obviously the thing between Andy Kaufman and the wrestler were not real, but I'm pretty sure David Letterman was in on it too. But as for whether or not the audience knew, like, that's where the intrigue comes, because you can never know, like, who's in on it and who's not. So I went on a little tangent, but that was the one thing that I wanted to confirm, the Milk and Cookies event. And then, you know, the Philippines, like, fraudulent miracle surgery thing. It's an example of, like, really tragic, dramatic irony happening to a real person in real life, where, you know, Andy Kaufman spends his entire career, I don't want to say lying to people, but, like, tricking people, because everything that he did was an act. Like, he was constantly in perform mode, even towards his loved ones. Fast forward to his cancer and everything, and he goes to the Philippines for this cure, and, you know, you have these doctors trying to make a quick buck out of sick people who have some sort of, like, internal disease and whatnot, and they're tricking people too. You know, they have, like, a bowl of animal's blood, and they have, like, you know, animal parts. Then it makes it look like that they're, you know, digging into a person and, like, ripping out the disease and, you know, cleaning it up and everything. You know, the irony of that was not beyond Kaufman, and I think that's really depressing, actually. I am also curious if whether or not, like, the events at his funeral were real, because, you know, basically he turned his funeral into a television performance and made the attendants of his funeral, like, you know, active participants. Andy Kaufman commanded something. Like, he commanded respect, but a lot of people also didn't respect him. A lot of people hated him. But he commanded something. He was kind of an anomaly as a person, or of a person. You know, I'm really interested to see some of his work firsthand. But, you know, the Jim Carrey film was definitely at least a good introductory point. I knew about Tony Clifton, and, you know, the whole hoax that, like, whether or not Andy Kaufman is really dead, because, you know, he has another person playing Tony Clifton, doing a really good job playing Tony Clifton, and, you know, him showing up posthumously. And the fact that there are still people decades later questioning whether or not Andy Kaufman is really dead is shows, or is a testament to how much of a dedicated person to his craft that he was. I'm pretty sure I went on another tangent. I had a point to make, but yeah, Man on the Moon was really good, and, you know, I'm really excited to delve into the world of Andy Kaufman, whatever that may be. But yeah, it's good. It's a good film.